Alright, so we've got our cream fried rabbit marinade ready to go. We have our rabbit all deboned, except for our front legs, which we're keeping as little wings. Alright, so this marinade you could probably use, excuse the ducks, they're being very loud. You can probably use most of this marinade if you wanted to go a southern fried. I'm doing a buttermilk marinade. The reason for that is rabbit's quite lean, it can be dry, so it really benefits from this style of marinade. So for that I have 700 mils of milk. Now I'm out of buttermilk, so I've just added 2 tablespoons of vinegar to this. So 700 mils, I've let this sit for about 5 minutes. It started to curdle, which is exactly what we want. We wanted that reaction. So we've got our buttermilk in, we have our soy sauce. Alright, so we had 2 teaspoons of soy sauce. Now for our spices, we have 1 tablespoon of salt. I know it sounds like a lot, but remember, we're not actually going to be utilizing like this liquid. This is just our marinade. So we have 2 teaspoons of black pepper, 2 teaspoons of onion powder, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of ginger, 1 teaspoon of paprika, and then we have, oh, that's actually it. So that's all going in. So nothing special, nothing too hard. Now, not needed, but I really like it. I'm going to put about 1 tablespoon of gochujang into the marinade, just because we really love gochujang. So get all of this in. Now I'm not scared, my hands are clean, so I'm just going to go straight in and mix all of this in with my hands. Now you can marinate this, probably the shortest period I would say would be a couple hours. Better overnight, really depends. Honest suggestion would be go overnight. But if you don't have time, which today I don't, we're just going to go a couple hours. So make sure it's all mixed in. Really reach down if you can and make sure that you break any air pockets. Alright, sometimes when you do these marinades in these containers, I'll move this around here, we can see that some stuff here is not mixed in. So really go through, mix everything in. This can go back in the fridge for a couple of hours, alright, or overnight. Okay, moving on to our dry mix, our dredge. Alright, so what we've got here is 3 cups of plain flour. To that we're going to add 1.5 cups of corn flour. You could also use potato starch. Actually, potato starch would probably be, my #1 recommendation. Alright, so we've got our flours mixed in. Going to add 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Alright, this is just going to help with the reaction, help it to get a bit crispy and puffy. Alright, into this we're going to add our salt, pepper, paprika, onion powder, garlic powder, ginger. Now, what's an optional extra here is either MSG, alright, which I don't have at the moment, but I do have a Asian style chicken stock that is very MSG heavy. So I've just added a little bit of that to it. Alright, don't be scared of MSG, honestly. So many people get really concerned about MSG in Chinese cooking. Yet, I've heard back when I had one of my restaurants, someone complaining about the MSG in the Chinese food. We did like lunchtime with standard fish and chips. And they asked for extra chicken salt, which is, 90% MSG. So don't be scared of MSG, it's not going to kill you. Makes everything good. Now, in this, all we're going to do is just mix it in, make sure everything's well incorporated. Hands clean again, please make sure about this. Okay, so that is all mixed in. This again can just go away until we're ready to dredge it right before frying. Okay, onto our steamed bun to go with our rabbit. So what I've got here is 500 grams of all-purpose flour. All right, actually I'll lie, I've got baker's flour. I pretty much only ever buy baker's flour, but all-purpose flour will be fine for this. All right, we then have 250 ml of warm milk. All right, and to that I've added 30 ml of neutral flavored oil. Okay, so try your best to look for recipes when it comes to baking that are actually done with scales. Honestly, like baking can be really, really difficult if you are not weighing everything out. Like if you look at a proper baking recipe, you'll see everything is weighed out, including the liquids. All right, it won't be 500 mils, it'll be 500 grams. All right, which generally, most times, the same. All right, so to this we're gonna add 40 grams of sugar. All right, over here we have our yeast, okay, 7 grams. We have 1 tablespoon of milk powder. Milk powder is just going to help with a bit of richness, okay? I highly recommend it, but you can leave it out. We also have our baking powder. All right, so we've got 2 leavening agents here, and then we have our salt. So whack all of this in together. All right, whack it down, start mixing. All right, just let that start get incorporated. Then what's going to happen, we're just going to pour in our oil and our warm milk. And we're going to mix for maybe about a minute on speed 1. Just let everything get incorporated. Alright, so mix for about a minute. We're just going to whack this on speed 2 and go for roughly 6 to 8 minutes. So for this, what we want to do is wait until it's incorporated. We don't want it to be too sticky. We don't want it to be too dry. We're after that like Goldilocks period. Just right. What we're going to do is just keep watching here. If it is too dry looking, we're going to add a little bit of milk, maybe a tablespoon at a time. So I've got my emergency milk here. This is thanks to our beautiful cow Corrie. Alright, and if on the other side, if it's too wet, we have emergency flour. So I highly recommend when you're doing this stuff, have the emergency stuff there and ready. It's going to make it a lot less stressful. Alright, have everything ready. So I'm going to have a quick look at this. Let's pull this off. Alright, so we're getting reasonably tacky here. Those dry spots have filled in a little bit. I just want to whack it on my bench. Now, this bench was already wiped off, so the only thing that's on here is actually flour and everything from this. So it's quite hard, and I believe I may need to add something, but I'm just going to work it a little bit. Actually, I think this might be alright. Now please remember, I'm not a baker. I do this, but I'm not an expert. You'll probably find 1,000,001 better steamed bun recipes out there than mine. Alright, but this is just a little bit of fun on the farm. So I'm reasonably happy with this. It is a little bit tight, but it's not too bad. So what I'm going to do now, save the dishes, use the exact same bowl. Just gonna give it a spray of oil. Whack it in. Spray on top. This is gonna sit covered for, it's pretty cold here, it's probably about an hour and a half. All right, then we're gonna come back to it, have a look. Should have doubled in size by then. Okay, gochujang dipping sauce. All right, this is what we're going to cover our fried chicken in, and it's like one of the things that really sets us apart from just standard fried chicken. But the ingredients are reasonably long, so I'm gonna read it out. Excuse the vision, you'll actually see here how bad my eyes are. So what we have is 5 tablespoons of gochujang, 4 tablespoons of honey, 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, 4 tablespoons of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. Now I would, again, if I had it, I would suggest using rice wine vinegar. 1 tablespoon of sesame oil, 5 garlic cloves, minced. Now, I personally, I used 8. You can't have too much garlic in this sauce, it's amazing. And I've got 2 teaspoons of dried ginger. Now, I'm only using that because I don't have any fresh. It would be 1 tablespoon of fresh ginger. Alright, so I also forgot that we have 2 tablespoons of water in here. So this is really easy. We've got most of this already in this pot. Then all we're going to do is add our brown sugar and our ginger. And our mass amount of garlic. All that in. Alright, turn this on. And all we're going to do is basically bring it up to a light simmer, make sure we're stirring it. Personally for me, I would continue to stir this the whole way through. It's not a long process. You can make this ahead of time, which is what I'm doing now, and then just heat it back up before you are going to serve. So I've got this on a medium to high. If you are multitasking and you've got other things to do, I would suggest a low temperature if you're going to be taking your eyes off it. Remember, there's a lot of sugar in here, and that can burn quite quickly. Alright, so been going for probably about 5 or 6 minutes, and we've got it all smooth. Everything has went in. Now I would probably reduce this a little bit more, but considering I'm going to be heating it up again, I don't want to take it too far on this one. Okay, quick pickle. So we're just going to do this in a jar. Alright, what I have here is equal parts of apple cider vinegar and water. Alright, so in this case this is half cup of water, half cup of apple cider vinegar. Now, in perfect world, I would have enough rice wine vinegar, but I don't. So rather than just giving up on it, this is what we're going to do. So to this, we're just going to add 1 tablespoon of sugar and 1 tablespoon of salt. Actually going to go get something to make this a hell of a lot easier. I've got this, which is for loading jars, generally for when we do the pressure canning, but it's going to make this so much easier. So just pour everything in. Alright, so that's our salt and our sugar. And now all we do is shake this until that salt and sugar has dissolved. Alright, that looks promising. So, to this I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of soy sauce and half teaspoon of sesame oil. that in there. All right, now we can leave this one for a little bit. We are going to do cucumber, carrot, and a little bit of Spanish onion. So, when you're doing this, you can make your life as hard or as easy as you want. If you really want a quick, easy way, rather than having to cut the cucumber or the carrot, honestly, just go over it with a peeler. And if you are worried about being able to grip it, just whack a fork in the end. Okay, and then just go through and take our thin slices. Remember, this is a quick pickle, so the thinner we can get this, the better. Now, we want to stop when we get to those seeds. That's when we turn and hit the other angle. You'd also go over this with a mandolin if you wanted, but to be honest, I didn't want to bring out more equipment. I was being lazy, and sometimes that's what it's about. If you need to be a little bit lazy to actually get something done, as long as you're getting it done, yeah, it's just finding a shortcut. I'm going to whack all of this now into this jar. Just push straight through. Alright, so we've got our first aspect, we've got our cucumber in there. We're now just going to do the same with the carrot. So again, whack our fork in the end, makes it nice and easy to just go through. Alright, so we're now moving on to onion. So I had half an onion sitting in the fridge, so this has already been peeled. Now there's just one thing that I want to quickly discuss. We have the top of the onion and tail of the onion. Some people don't know this. Alright, this part here, the hairy part, the bottom, the roots, this part here should not be cut off if you are planning on doing diced onion. Alright, this is your handle. So what would happen is we'd go through this way, cutting all the way through. Then we would come through, cut, all right, and then turn. This part's my handle, so my finger just chases it around. But we're doing sliced onion. So if we look into this part here, you can see that all of the little bits of onion come in and join here. So if I cut straight, I'm going to end up with my onion all stuck together. So what I want to do is come in here on an angle, cut my wedge out. So I've gone through here, we should have our nice easy slice where it should all come apart. Alright, again, safety. Alright, I personally grip my knife like this rather than this. The reason for this is if I'm holding like this and I'm pushing, the knife can actually turn in my hand. Even if I'm holding with a death grip, the knife can turn in my hand. If I'm holding like this, I control the angle of the knife. Alright, have my finger to lead here, and go as quickly or as slowly as you want. Alright, another method would be to leave the tip of the knife on. I'm going to start at my angle and then curve and come through. Alright, and I'm going to continue cutting until I feel unsafe. Alright, and I actually find cutting slower is harder for me personally. But, you know, go at your own speed and when you're happy. So we just come through, little slices. Now again, like I said, cutting slow here. What I had there was that fell. So I move it, I get everything here, clean it down, move it out of my way. Now if I continue to cut here, this is quite unsafe, it's unstable. So it's really, really easy. Just turn it, flip it around. There's a little bit here that should be going through. keeping the knife on the board is going to make it a lot easier, and there's less chance of cutting yourself. If I'm going through like kilos of onion, I personally don't do this. I chop, I find it faster. But if I'm going through a little bit and I don't really want to pay attention, I can just come through and slice like this. I know where everything is, my fingers are out of the way, and I can just slice. Alright, one of the, I guess the benefits of being legally blind is if you watch any of the top chefs out there and you're watching them cutting, they're not actually looking at what they're cutting. It's all done by feel. Now, this was something when I was at TAFE that everyone else had that struggle of needing to look at what they were doing. Whereas for me, I couldn't. So I found it really, really easy just to move straight to not looking. Just trusting that I could feel where the knife was. If I could feel the knife, I was safe. Alright, optional extra in here is just a little pinch of chili. Now, I'm only going to add a little bit because one of my daughters is actually, you know, a bit of a chili sook. And considering we've already got that gochujang and everything like that, I don't want to have too much heat. Alright, and the pickles can be a nice refreshing aspect. So I'm just going to add a tiny little pinch, maybe 1/4 of a teaspoon on the guess. Alright, so this is pretty much our pickle done. Shake it up. What I would suggest is just every once in a while change it from sitting up one way and go the other way. Now, we're having, you know, it's already getting late in the afternoon. My daughter's just got home from school. So to me, there's no point putting this in the fridge. We're having it tonight. So this is just going to go out on the bench. All right, so filming out here isn't going to work. I'm going to show the next step of this bao bun, and then we're going to have to reset and go from there. So the next step is basically, it's nice and easy. We've got our dough, just going to pop it down a little bit, and all we're going to do is weigh out roughly 70-gram balls. Alright, once we've weighed out our ball, we're just going to roll it in on itself, tucking it in each time. Form it back into our ball. And that's it for this step. Alright, we just continue to go through. Alright, so now we're at the frying stage. And when you're doing Korean fried rabbit or Korean fried chicken, the best method is to do a double fry. So we're going to fry first at 160 degrees. Alright, 160 to 170. We're going to go for a couple of minutes. This is where we fully cook everything. Then we're going to pull it out and let it drain off. And then we do a final flash fry. Alright, so I've got this going. We're coming up to temp. Now, normally I would say always use brand new fresh oil, but we actually had this last night. This oil has only been used for the Korean fried rabbit, and I figured may as well go again. We don't need to strain it. It's all good. When we're doing our dredge, we want to make sure, it's going to get some legs in first. We don't want to just completely pour everything in. Alright, we'll end up with a whole bunch of gluggy batter. So we're going to come through, make sure it's all coated. We're not pressing it in massively like you would with like a KFC. Alright, we're wanting a pretty light coating. And just go straight in. want to overcrowd this too much, but you can also be reasonably generous. It's a decent sized pan that we're using. Alright, so I have a draining rack here set up. When we pull it all out, we're just going to place it on that draining rack. And then just rinse and repeat. Just keep going, bit by bit, get through your batches, get everything that you're doing done at this stage, and then you can reset. You can clean everything off, clean your hands, and then get ready for the final. Alright, so I guess we should talk about why rabbit. Okay, so a few reasons for us. One, we've made the decision, at least at this point, not to run Cornish cross chickens, which is your standard sort of chicken that you get at Coles and Woolies. Alright, it is the commercial chicken. Now, these guys are from, you know, day old chicks to harvest, ready to go meat birds. You're looking at like 8 to 10 weeks. Sometimes even the really little whole chooks are done at like as little as 6 weeks. Whereas the chickens that we keep currently are Oscalorps, and they just take forever to grow out for meat. Now we do, you know, use our Oscalorps for meat, but the rabbits, we can have a rabbit, we can have its kits, and then in 12 weeks we can be processing that rabbit. So it's just so much faster than our chickens. And we wanted just an extra sort of backup way to get our own meat. And I've eaten rabbit in the restaurant. I've had some great rabbit dishes that I've done in restaurants, and I didn't have a problem with it. I bought a rabbit from the butcher when we were living on Central Coast, and I think one rabbit cost me like near like $40. We trialed the rabbit, the kids all ate it, they loved it. For that, I think we did a rabbit cacciatore. The kids all ate it, but my wife was not keen. We moved here, we moved to the property, and we're chatting about things and wanting to be sustainable and try and produce as much of our own food as possible. And in that discussion, she said, look, I really want to give rabbit another go. So we got them all sorted, we got the rabbit, and she ate. The first thing I did for her was this Korean fried rabbit. I thought that's something familiar, it's something easy, and if someone hasn't eaten rabbit but they're scared, this is a good vehicle to sort of get someone into that extra option for a meat source. So let's talk about the other side of eating rabbit. If you're someone that has the ability to go hunting, you know, I honestly urge you, you know, hunt rabbit. You know, yes, you can go for your deer, you can go for pigs, but rabbit is one of those things that we have a whole bunch of them here. They're going crazy, and you know, be sustainable and hunt. For me, it's not something that I can see a way to really do it at the moment. Like, I can't get a firearms license with my vision. They're not exactly going to go, yeah, let's give a blind guy a gun. So for me, that's not really an option. But if I do have friends that drop over any game that they've hunted, then I'm always happy to play with that. Okay, final fry. So remember, this is already cooked, so we're just flashing it to get color and crisp. Alright, so we're looking alright here. Going good, nice and crispy. Now, things to serve this with. Now, last night we had it with homemade steam buns. Unfortunately, we ate all of the steam buns, so there's none left for today for the final reveal. We also did a side of rice. So you can just have this over rice. You can have it by itself with a big plate of chicken as maybe a side. If you're having friends over and you would do like chicken wings or anything, you can give this a crack. You can also just do it on a standard like burger bun. Make chicken burgers, your own Korean KFC. Now, also on this, guys, I know I'm touching it. It is straight out of the hot oil. I've pretty much got close to no feeling left in my fingertips after years of being burnt. Believe it or not, I actually learnt Braille in high school. Just in case, probably would have made it a lot easier. But now, after chefing for so long, no feeling. So reading Braille is next to impossible. Okay, time to put this together. So now what we do is that sauce that we did up before. Now, I don't have a lot left because we really got stuck into this yesterday. So if I was making enough sauce for the whole lot, I probably would have made double the amount in my recipe. Simply because we like this sauce. So we're gonna go in here, excuse fingers. This is just for me for lunch, maybe for my son if he's lucky. Alright, so what we're going to do here, let's just coat it in this sauce. Now, this is a little bit skimpy on our sauce, but it's what was left. Okay, I have a plate over here. Pile it on. Any more of that sauce? This came with some of the little chunks that came off. Now, we have our quick pickle that we made. What's left of it? We have daikon radish growing in the garden, and we also have a whole bunch of cabbage ready to make our own kimchi, so we're really excited for that. Not more gochujang, it's just we have a lot of these containers lying around. So some shallots. And optional extra, little touch of Kewpie. There we go. This was dinner last night. You need to reuse it tonight for our fried rice. Hence why we also did rice last night, so we've got day-old rice now. So we'll try the pickle first. So this pickle would have been, like, it was ready last night. It was completely fine. So this is after 24 hours. It has been refrigerated overnight. Still has a lot of crunch. Really good. So I'm just going to go in with my fingers for the chicken. See, I did it then. For the rabbit. It's honestly really good. Anyhow, pass some to my son. He's sitting here looking at me like, are you gonna eat all of that, Dad? So 100%, give it a go. If you're scared about rabbit, honestly, this is a good gateway recipe. It gets you in, it works well, it's delicious. And if you are thinking about being sustainable and growing your own food, look into rabbits. You know, you can produce a lot of meat from $1 and a couple of days.